Yes.
Okay, this meeting is being called at 6:32 PM. Notice is hereby given that this is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, being held today, Thursday, June 22nd, 2023 at 6:30 PM at City Hall, 22870 Priest Road, Sandy Oaks, Texas, where a quorum of the City Council is present. All agenda items are subject to action. The public has been permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by presiding officer during the meeting by signing up with the city secretary in person at least 15 minutes in advance of the meeting, or by emailing or calling the city secretary at cityclerkofcityofsandyoaks.com or 210-607-0834 at least 2 hours in advance of the meeting. Any written comments received at least 2 hours in advance of the meeting have been provided to the city council for consideration. Madam Secretary, may I get a call to order?
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem Alvarado. Here. Alderwoman Martinez.
Yeah.
Alderman Rapino.
Here.
Alderman Fillinger.
Here.
Alderman Koppenbacher.
Here.
We do have our city attorney and city secretary. You have a form, sir.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no one to sign up.
Nobody sign up? Okay. Okay, so moving on from citizens to be heard, as there was nobody signed up to speak, we can move on to item number 4, mayor and administrator announcements. The only announcements that I really have is I was very early at the car show and in the initial setup, and so far, and from what I saw, things looked great. The vendors were arriving, some cars were in attendance. I'm looking forward to future versions of it to come. I think it's going to be a great opportunity, but also want to give our Parks Committee and the owner of the event an opportunity to talk through it at this point. Terry, let's start with you. Do you have any comments to add?
Well, I know at the end of it, we wound up with about 20 cars out there on show. People at any given time, there was about 40 people out there until about, I'd say 1 o'clock in the afternoon when it started to wind down. It went very well. Everybody I spoke to, they want to do it again. The vendors want to come back out and do it again. One of the vendors, it was their first time to be a vendor of any sort, and they enjoyed the experience of it. And I try and invite them out. Already discussed with the vendors and some of the participants that wanted to show up again, that we got more friends with more cars about doing it again next year at the same time frame, the day before Father's Day. And possibly we might be able to turn this into an annual event once a year for our city. And we can possibly let it grow into something better and give people a reason to come visit us here in Sandy Oaks.
Awesome. Thank you. Tom? Any feedback from the Parks Committee?
No, they were all very happy about it, and there were a lot of neat cars out there, and people were happy with what went on. And as Terry said, we're hoping that this can become an annual event.
Oh, and the bounce houses were a big hit for the kids.
Yeah.
It worked out about the way we thought it would.
Yeah.
For people that, shiny cars, seen it once, seen it twice. Okay, I'm good. They were over at the bounce houses while our parents were walking around visiting and seeing cars and enjoying everything else. But it worked out great.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Let's take a moment to review your consent agenda.
No questions, I need to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Rapino to accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. That passes unanimously.
Mayor, would you like the auditor to go?
Yeah, where is it on
Ten.
10A? Okay, yep, so let's go ahead and just kind of skip around for a moment here. We will move to agenda item 10A, administration new business. Receive presentation from city's auditing firm on audit and findings for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022, and or possible discussion and or action. Sir, you have the floor.
Mayor, I guess you were just too excited to hear about the audit.
Yeah.
Of course.
I promise I'm gonna be brief and I'm here for your benefit. So if you have a question, just throw something at me. Otherwise, I'm gonna hit 50,000 foot view and just tell you what you need to know. So as you probably know, our job is to be independent of the city and help you prepare this annual report and tell everybody else that these are accurate numbers. And so we do our due diligence and we test them and we issued a clean opinion saying we agree that the numbers in this annual report are accurate. So when you give it to the citizens or your bondholders, they know somebody else has looked at it and checks it. While we're doing that, if we come across anything that we think you could be doing better or that you might be able to improve upon, we bring that to your attention. We didn't have anything significant this year. There was a letter that was included that has a few kind of standard verbiage in there, since you're not necessarily involved in the audit process. It tells you some things about that we didn't have any difficulties in working with management. We didn't have any disagreements with them. But there are two just minor comments on the third to last page. I'll briefly touch on. The first one is just keeping in mind that you have a very limited staff. So Ms. Hilton wears a lot of hats. And so ideally you would have multiple people and you spread out all the duties so they can provide checks on each other, but that's not something we can have a luxury of. So just be cognizant of that as you're reviewing financial statements on a monthly basis and making sure that what's flowing through your financial statements you're satisfied about. And then the second one was about Chase Bank. As you know, they provide pledged collateral for your deposits. So if they were to go under, you would get your FDIC $250,000 per depositor, but anything above that would be at risk. So they buy securities for you and put them with another bank. So if they go under, you can go to the other bank and say, give me those securities so that you have all your cash. Well, at the end of the year, they were short for some reason. They didn't pledge enough to cover you by about $250,000. You had a large deposit at the end of September, so we kind of speculated that might have caused it, and maybe they were just a little bit behind, but then we looked at October, and it also short in October. I mean, I was speaking to Mr. Rapino before the meeting that he's been trying to contact them and figure out what the status of that is. Some of the depository agreements that we've read, the cities has to be proactive and tell them, hey, we're going up on our deposits, so give us some more pledge collateral. And some of them say the bank's going to monitor and float for you automatically.
Mhm.
So it could just be an oversight on their part. They weren't watching it, or maybe they're waiting for you to call them and say, raise it. But just something to be aware of, especially in, as Mr. Rapino said, in light of the markets right now in the bank, everybody's a little bit hypersensitive about it.
Would we be wise and like our general fund, if the number is at, it's above what they can secure for you? Would we be wise to separate these funds into different banks to protect them that way?
Well,
Since banks are limited?
You have a tax pool account, which invests in federal securities, and so it doesn't have the same kind of limitations. And so what I would do is recommend is you move a little bit towards tax pool, you just balance it a little bit more. You also get a little bit more return on your money since they're paying them about 5% now. You get a little bit more. But I mean, I'm just looking at your agenda and I see there's a big dollar amount on there that might be coming out soon. So that it might solve itself if you spend all of it.
And I called them twice already, and I'll talk to them once I can get somebody that is reasonably in charge and find out what's going on. And maybe it's just that they haven't been paying attention, which kind of shakes me up a little bit too. So, and we'll do what we have to do to make this right. I mean, it's a requirement from the state that we are collateralized so that we don't, find out that we are $250,000 in the hole because, and as you said earlier, if Chase fails, we're screwed anyhow.
We're all in trouble.
Yeah.
So,
And maybe it's a good reason to shop our business. I mean, if they're not going to actively monitor them,
and
I'm not opposed to a different bank either.
yeah,
But we could talk about that more.
yeah,
at a later
we
date.
can
Just
change
possible
banks,
solutions.
but it's not as easy as the state has requirements
Sure.
for shopping banks. So, but we can do that.
How long have y'all been with Chase? How long have y'all been with Chase? Is it
It's a requirement that you change banks
every 5 years?
every 5 years. I
Oh.
think we've been there 5 years, so. But it's, for small cities, it's hard to find a bank that'll take us, so. That's been a problem in the past, so,
I know a bank that'll take. it. I'll call them up.
okay, but are they?
Hey, it's local, it's Frost, man. Hey, that's
Oh,
my,
Frost will take it, yeah.
that's my pick every single time.
Okay, I
So.
got money in Frost,
But anyways, we can talk about that
okay.
later.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't throw some numbers at you.
Sure.
So there's just 2 pages on the actual report. I was gonna just touch on the first one's 32, if you want to follow along. And that shows you your activity for last fiscal year. And it compares it to the year before that. So on the top section is your revenues, and your revenues were up last year about 48,000. Some of that's property taxes, some of it's franchise fees, but you had a little bit of a decrease in fines. On the spending side, you spent 43,000 more than last year. Most of that's related to payroll, public works, the marshal's office, or police department. What are we calling ours?
Police
Police
department.
department now, okay. Police department, public works, and then some of the benefits related that are in the city hall line of the victim administration. So in 2022, that third line from the bottom, you'll see that you added 33,000 to your fund balance. So obviously it's better to add your fund balance than take away. So you're ending at 275,000, which is about 4.5 months of operating costs. But I will caution you though, that just looking at your 2023 budget, I see that you're looking at spending some of that fund balance, and then also it looks about 132,000 if that comes through, if the 2023 budget comes through. So that would bring me down to about 140,000 at the end of this year, if everything happens perfectly that was in the budget. Generally, I would say 3 months would be kind of the danger zone. I wouldn't really want you to go under and stay there, just because it doesn't give you enough wiggle room to make sure you can make payroll in a slow month. But you gotta do what you gotta do as a city, so. But 3 months would be my target to try to keep as a floor if possible. The ace in the hole is the American Rescue Plan. And that's my last page is on 13. It shows you your other funds, how they did for 2022. So that first column is the general fund that we just talked about. Right next to it for the capital projects fund, that's your bond money. And you'll see at the very bottom, you have 676,000 left in your bond fund that I believe you're talking about tonight. And then next to that's your debt service fund, which you can see bottom line into 8,000, which is about what you want. You want that to be a break even. You bring in taxes to pay your debt. You don't have a whole lot left over. And then next to that is your American Rescue Plan fund. On the bottom, it shows 0. And that's because it's not your money until you spend it. If you don't spend it, you got to give it back. So it doesn't count there, but you have a 932,000 American Rescue Plan. And you spent about 194 this last year, but there's 932 left. As you probably know, you selected the revenue loss option, so your sky's kind of the limit for that money. So it's really up to you how you want to spend it, as long as you can say it's a traditional government service. So that's kind of your ace in the hole. But that's really all I had to touch on. I'd be happy to answer any easy questions.
Where about, because I know we talked about it previously, but where do you make recommendations about things that we could do to improve kind of the transactionals day to day? Is that in here?
Yeah, it's in this letter, and that's mainly the only one we had this year was flood collateral and just making sure that you're vigilant, because you just have a limited staff and you want to keep an eye on as much as you possibly can. We've made some comments in the past about trying to segregate your money, and there's challenges with that with QuickBooks because it's not easy to do. So if you really wanted to get professional about it, you have to look at some additional software, which is expensive. And so I don't know that I would really push you towards that. And once you spend your bond money, it's going to simplify it, unless you're going to do another bond soon. If you have plans for that. But once you go through that money, then there's not as much to keep separate, and not a rescue plan. You only have another 1.5 years or so on that.
Sure.
So both of those will drop off. You'll basically just have your debt in your general fund, so it'll go a lot simpler. So I would, if long-term, if you were gonna have lots of buckets of money that you need to keep track of, I'd probably say, like, look at another software, or on your QuickBooks, you create multiple QuickBooks files. So you have one for the general fund, you have another QuickBooks file for something else, just to make sure that you kept it separate. But I can't recommend that, because I don't think you're gonna need it long-term, at least for the short-term one.
Immediate future. Okay. Any other questions?
I just got one from myself. I don't recall if you sent this in a Word or if it's in PDF without the word graphic cost.
Yeah, it's PDF. We were just waiting for signatures.
Oh, yeah,
So
I just got it.
Okay, and so I think that was want to make sure that you guys approved it, and now I'm wondering too, if we should change we got references to Marshall in here, I wonder if we should just change all those to.
Yeah, let's do that. If we can do that, yeah, let's just to clean it up.
Sure.
Does that need to be a motion before we accept it?
You can just make a motion to accept it with the change of Marshall to the police department, other.
Well, you heard it. You heard it. I need a motion.
I believe we accept the annual finance report. With corrections of removing Marshall and inserting the police department.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Rapino to accept the financial report, the annual financial report, with corrections that remove Marshall and update to police department. All those in favor say aye.
I,
All those opposed. That passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Okay, so we will jump back to the front. 6A, updated announcements from Chief Lopez with possible discussion interaction. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So just, I know we had posted a position for animal control. An individual was interviewed with myself and along with the panel as well. And so, we have a position that's gonna be filled for animal control in the next weeks or so. That's gonna be placed on the next agenda. So, yeah, finally.
And they'll be part-time,
Yes, that is.
as we discussed? Okay.
Yes,
And that'll be on the next agenda?
yes.
All right, any questions?
why are we going part-time with this individual?
The reason, because the last two previous animal control officers, we invested a lot of time, money and energy in training these individuals and they didn't work out. And so we started off, we're gonna start part-time so we can see, they can prove themselves before we start investing. Uniforms, benefits, all this other stuff that hasn't worked out in previous and past. So I'm probably about the 6-month mark. If they prove themselves, then we can make it, we can go move forward and make it full-time with uniforms and benefits.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right, moving on, presentation of monthly report by Chief Lopez. Chief?
The month of May, we had 120, starting at the top, we had 128 court defendants, 268 cases. For the court, we just this is okay. For traffic stops, we had 84 traffic stops, 99 citations were issued, 37 warnings were given. Myself, it took in 9 calls for service reports. Corporal did 26 and Officer Maldonado did 45. For a total of about 80 reports. That's a lot reports in 1 month. And more than likely it's going to probably go up as we enter the summer months with more activity and things like that. We had 6 arrests. We had 7 calls for service for other law enforcement agencies. That would be Byrd County. Assist Byrd County Fire, 1 call for service, 3 EMS assist as well. Moving down to 1 call for alarm medical call, 6 calls for service for animal dog loose, 1 assist public, 2 calls for a burglary of a residence, 1 call for a burglary of a vehicle, 6 civil matter custody visitation calls for service, 2 civil matters. Next page, 1 crash report. 6 citations were issued for city ordinance violations trailer. 1 citation was issued for city ordinance trash and garbage. Moving down to city ordinance violation discharge of firearm and city limits, 2 citations were issued. 2 damaged property reports, 2 disturbance child reports, 1 call for disturbance shots heard, 6 disturbance verbal. 6 citations for city ordinance violation of stock animals. 1 call for service for found property, 1 harassment telephone, 3 information calls. And then 1 call for reckless driver, 1 recovered vehicle, 1 road rage incident, 2 runaways, call for service, 1 sex offense report, 1 suspicious activity, 2 calls for suspicious person, 2 thefts, 1 call for threats, 1 call for traffic stop evading, 2 traffic violations, 1 unauthorized use of motor vehicle, 4 welfare checks, and 2 towed vehicles. And if you're looking for the individuals that were arrested, starting at the top, we had 2 individuals that were arrested in Sandy Oaks for burglary of habitation. And then we had another evading and resisting arrest, and the arrest warrant was issued for that individual who was a non-resident. And then we had a county warrant for assault, family strangulation. And then we had another arrest warrant for burglary of habitation to commit felony force. That individual was an arrest warrant. He was just recently arrested last week. And then the last individual was for a traffic warrant. So 2 residents and 4 non-residents for a total of 6 arrested.
They find a few runaways,
Yes, they were located.
so they are home, the family's getting whatever help they need, and
As far as we're concerned, yeah.
yeah, that's still one. We actually had a wreck in the city.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was on Priest Road, close to the mayor's house.
That's down about where I live at.
I must have been traveling because I didn't see it.
Not the first one.
They run a lawnmower off the road.
Yeah.
As
Hey,
long as nobody's hurt, we're good.
the only question I have, and it's really not even a question, on the items that haven't seen any activity for 6 months, basically, 5 months, can we collapse those so we can kind of just consolidate the report a bit?
Yeah, it can be, I'll just, it takes all that out, so. I'll have-
Yeah, I don't want you to delete it, right?
Yeah,
Just kind of collapse it.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
All right, cool. Any questions?
I do.
Okay.
The arrest. Those. Normally come from a traffic stop.
Which ones?
In general.
When you arrest somebody in general.
Most of our arrests do come from traffic stops because everybody gets into a vehicle and they need to travel. Some individuals, it just varies, but
No, I'm just thinking, you, 4 non-residents coming through the neighborhood and being stopped, and good job.
Any other questions? Or comment?
Keep up the good work.
Keep it up.
I would state out loud. If I did not have a driver's license. Insurance. I would never, ever be stopped. 28 miles. Turn signal.
Set the
for a
cruise.
quarter of an hour. Just, just strikes me as ignorant.
yeah, I mean, if you look at the court docket, you'll see that a lot of individuals don't have driver's license or insurance. So, and if you don't have insurance, then guess what? Your vehicle gets towed.
And rightfully so.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
all right, moving on to Parks and Rec. Updated announcement from the Park Advisory Committee Chair Alderman Rapino with possible discussion and or action.
Well, the big thing was the car show, and it came off as Alderman Coppendapper had already discussed. So I really have nothing more to discuss. except that the next meeting will be on July the 11th because of the 4th of
Holiday.
July. So that's all I have.
6:30 PM?
Yes, as usual.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I talked to a few guys that were there, that came real early, because I guess they misunderstood what time what was rolling, and they were all local. That was pretty cool. You know, and I think had there been a little bit more advertisement, we probably could have got more of the citizens. But yeah, me and Terry were talking, you know, how do we make this thing better next year? And I mean, not that it wasn't good, right? But how do you improve on it from one year to the next? And
Well, this was the first year, so I think.
yeah, it's all learning.
Yeah, and I was surprised that there was as many people showing up as there was, and a lot of nice cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. In fact, one of the cars that I saw, it was like a blue Impala, like a lowrider.
mhm.
He didn't know about it. He's not on next door. But I saw him at QT on a Friday night. And I mean, yelled out the window, "Hey, buddy," and told him, said next Saturday. He's like, "I'll be there." So he was excited, and I'm glad he showed up. So
Word of mouth will make it work. Next time.
Yep.
That's all I have. So,
all right.
thank you.
Any other questions?
When's the next meeting?
Bruce,
He said July 11th. No, you're good.
do we have anything planned in the park for the 4th of July?
I overheard the ladies talking about
There-
they're planning something.
Something, yes. It'll be publicized soon.
Cool.
Not fireworks though, right?
No problem.
Be a little
All
dry.
right, all right, good.
Fun.
Well, I mean, our DPW, they done such a good job at cleaning up the park for the car show. We got more of a park now than what we did have.
Yeah,
And that's why I was kind of curious if we had something planned for down there. 'Cause as these things are coming together, the park's starting to grow into something that I believe more members of the community will want to come down. to
Well,
that park.
we have a real, a jewel down there with those three ladies
Mhm.
and we really need to appreciate them. I mean, and they're free. That is
That's a blessing.
blessing. And when we lose them, we're gonna lose quite if we lose them. And I hope we don't, but anyhow, that's all I have.
Okay.
all right, moving on.
I'd like
Oh,
to
sure.
say, if you go to the park early or you go to the park late, there are a lot of people using the park now than any time in the past.
Mhm.
It's true. There was, in fact, keeping it on subject, right? Like when I showed up at 8 a.m, that while there were cars already getting there was people walking the trails.
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised, right? It's a Saturday, you know, who gets up early? But no,
Every day.
there was people out there, and I
Yeah,
was like,
people
oh,
use that trail.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, with it, like I said, I blame DPW for that. Their success at cleaning that park up.
Yep.
Getting all that overgrowth done, taken out. We just got to maintain that now and
oh,
But they've always used that trail. That trail is a big plus.
and that's another thing we can add. So, Department of Public Works organized the burn of the big
Yeah.
brush pile. So that was a success. I got to speak to the battalion chief. He told me he used it as a training exercise. And so it was just a good opportunity for his folks to learn to practice on something. When I showed up, I had my kids, so I was concerned they were gonna push me away, but I said, hold on, let me talk to you for a minute. And but no, it was far enough away that it had no concern with the playground. And in fact, even some more families came in. It was like a Friday, right? Friday during the day, and more families came in. And as I was walking out of the park, they asked me, you know, is it closed because of the burn? And I said no, they have it under control. And so it was a good thing. Obviously, now we have more space in the park. I think all the last wood has been burned, so
I think there's one log in there.
it's still,
I got something, the telephone pole or what?
oh geez. But no, that's good because that clears up it looked huge, right? Humongous from the outside. And now as it burned down, you realize it's like, it wasn't a ton of room, but man, by volume, right? Height and width, it was humongous. So it's a good thing for us to clear that out.
It's a long ways to go.
Yeah,
I didn't say anything about it because I didn't want to steal Priscilla's thunder.
I did. Sorry.
You know,
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the thunder that I stole, Public Works. Updates and announcements from Public Works Director Priscilla Smith with possible discussion and or action. Ma'am, you have the floor.
I don't have anything.
How's the horse trailer hunt coming?
Um. We'll need to discuss that more. I think there's a communication barrier there, but. Well, one of them looked really good, so I will reach out to the individual.
Okay.
Um,
You see anything else locally? No?
I just think that the brand new one that we were looking at. We need to make sure that
It's the right height.
the height is to clear enough horses.
Yeah.
If we were to come across a horse.
A full
There's
size.
no sense in us purchasing a livestock trailer that can't accommodate a horse if we were to come across it, and we did have to transport a horse.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, but whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. A secure location, it has to be able to have. A horse.
Cause they reach a height of what, 8 feet, 9 feet? And they're standing at 7? Okay, so it's gotta be,
It's a special made trailer.
right.
And yeah,
No, I'm talking about a horse, right? Like,
Unless the Budweiser team
Yeah.
comes to sit down.
yes.
7
feet is
would
about
be
normal.
added.
Okay, so 8 or 9.
Sorry, Clydesdale show up?
Yeah.
We're
I
taking
saw them
pictures
the
and
other
having a
day.
parade.
It was in- it was
The
in,
blue
uh,
one that you
that
sent me,
happened.
there's not a.
It was in Debbie
description of
Jo.
the height, so.
Yeah.
But I am letting you know.
Okay, good.
That you can send me that. I'll start watching those. See if we can. narrow it down.
Okay. Any other major projects going on with Public Works at this time?
We are, clearing, when you go into the park, off to the right, the maintenance chart is, we're clearing that area out.
Oh, where all the-
Grass all cut and everything there. we
Where the
still got
bollards
ways
are?
To go, because in that area, there's still real tall grass, but that's where, I guess when we were in Waterwood, they were actually burying. Trash.
Is that where all that pipe is at and
It's gonna
everything?
mess up our zero turn, no,
Okay,
no, but yeah, that's not gonna be an easy task to move that, so we're just gonna leave that alone, out of sight, out of mind. Tomorrow we plan on painting, some stripes on the speed bumps going into the park, because it's gonna fade it. And then we painted some bollards today. Had took all day to paint those telephone poles, but there's nothing really major going on with them. We're trying to get the park clean.
I've been seeing a ton of wasps lately, so definitely be cautious. Obviously with even in-ground nests, right? So be sure to stock up on wasp spray
I
and
did,
have it with you at all times.
glad you brought that up, because I was gonna say the email, I received one from you. That was the only area I did not cover. Picnic tables, barbecue pits, playground equipment, the community center, the ramps, the restrooms, the pavilion. The enclosed green
Basketball
area
court.
where the pool pumps used to be, I mean, covered everything, just the basketball courts, just. Out of sight, out of mind, didn't even think to look there, so now that that came about, yes, we will. So I did stock up on bee spray.
Okay.
Or wasp spray, whatever, so we are, even the exercise equipment, there was a.
Oh, really?
There, but this is way before the email came.
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
You know, just trying to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
Because I know this is the time they're gonna start building.
Yeah, let's try to put it in like a weekly walk around. Cause I mean, they're just gonna keep coming back.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe not there one day and not the next.
Yeah. Okay, anything else, ma'am?
No, sorry.
All right. Moving on, administration, old business, discuss under possible action on setting official policies regarding the animal control policy. Alderman Fillinger? Alderman
Okay.
Kuykendall?
The intent is to have a standard policy. And the bottom line is. Because we had no policy, we have had animals. In the shelter for 3 months. We have spent hundreds of dollars in veterinarian fees. for dogs that have been transported out. Uh, We're not an animal rescue.
Right.
Mhm.
If a dog is injured to the point where he needs veterinarian care, the dog needs to be put down. We're not in the animal hospital business. It's just
We're animal control.
thousands of dollars over the years
Mhm.
that could have been used for parks, streets, public welfare, have gone into dogs that nobody wants, nobody cares for. And, you know, my take is if the dog's out in the street, nobody wants it, nobody's caring for it. They need to be rounded up. If they're not microchipped, the owner should be fined, go to court and pay for a microchip. It's the law. And animal control is a law, just like any other law. And if we're not going to enforce that law, let's take the ordinance off the books and tell people just do whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
And shut down the animal shelter, sell it. And, I mean, it's just, we've got to get control on this.
Exactly.
The police department has done a good job of slowing down less responsible drivers. And we need to get on top of animal control. We need not to have animals picked up and we're gonna hold them for 3 months, hoping for a rescue or an adoption. We've got to get on top of it. That's the intent of this policy. We need to cross our T's and dot our I's regarding animal bites and what happens after an animal bite. It's all covered in here. We need to comply with state law. So that's the presentation. As always, everything's up for discussion, but I think we need to do better than we have done in the past.
Okay, Mr. Goffendaffer, do you have any extra words to add?
I'd say that Alderman Fellinger hit it all nail on the head. We need this policy. And fortunately, unfortunately, it's the first time the city's had a policy for animal control, but it's something that we gotta have. I know the city's been around for a good minute. This should have been done years ago. But today we're fixing it. This will give guidance to our new ACO coming on board. This will help Chief give him guidance on what's expected. This gives the city guidance of what's expected of us as a citizen. And that is something that we all desperately need. Because like Alderman Fellinger said, without this guidance, we might as well get rid of the ordinance right now and call it a day. Which I'd rather not do.
So do we need a motion to accept the animal control procedure manual?
Let's adopt it, sir.
We're gonna
Adopt it?
Stop it.
Okay, so I make a motion to.
Well, hang on.
Oh,
Hang on. So I before we do that, right, I did notice that there's a couple of typos that I want to point
Okay.
out on 16-11. Vaccination tag.
is this the official?
It's not,
Copy.
but I just want to make sure that we document it so we can fix them.
Page 12.
Page 12, 16-11.
That's in the drop.
Hold on, yeah, which is fine. Where is it on page 30?
Page 12.
30.
Page 12 at the
Page
bottom.
12. Oh, okay. Also, the first sentence under A, that's an A instead of a.
It's just spelling errors. There's no-
Yeah.
Correct any.
Okay, so then, no, my apologies. We don't need to stop for spelling errors. But I mean, I guess before we make a motion, right, let's understand that, we're accepting it as is. I hope everybody's done their research and read about it. It feels
So many
comfortable with it.
times.
Yeah, right, exactly.
What's that?
I guess,
1611 in the header,
yes, sir.
vaccination ag,
Yeah, vaccination tag.
okay.
Yeah, simple enough. And then on page 30, I think primarily is misspelled, which is fine. We can fix that.
Where's that, sir?
Just a metallic pad and further on
The third paragraph on the bottom,
What page should be?
30. The only thing I didn't see is I know it references, and maybe I just missed it, right? It references license fees for dogs and cats, and then we can issue a fine. Is there a fee schedule in here that I missed?
Yeah, all fee schedules are on the animal.
They're on the other.
ordinance.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood. All right, didn't know if it was gonna circle into this, so that's fine. All right, so I didn't mean to interrupt,
So
but
we're good?
yeah,
Okay, I make a motion to adopt the animal control policy as written.
A second.
okay, so I have a motion from Alderman Rapino and a second from Alderwoman Martinez to adopt the animal control policy and procedure manual as written. All those in favor say aye.
And
All those opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We finally have an animal control policy.
that went better than I thought.
Yeah. All right.
That is awesome.
All right, so moving right along, we can now jump to 10B. Discuss under possible action on an invoice to 20,79191 from Texas Materials not to exceed 852,165. As you are aware, this is the invoice for the reconstruction of New Mathis Road. The majority of this is payable by our bond. Do you happen to have the bond balance available? And so the reason why we're presenting it today, because I mean, obviously we went into the bond for the purpose of doing this road. But the reason why it's being presented today is because there's going to be a shortage. There's going to be a shortage from the bond, and that needs to come from somewhere. And so in reality, what we want to do today is discuss how we're going to pay that remaining balance. My thought is that it would be via ARPA, makes the most sense. It doesn't take away from our liquidity. And I mean, it's really our main source of extra income right now to make this happen. So part of the reason, and me and Alderman Fillinger discussed this before, part of the reason why we did come up short, right, is because this bond was created almost 4 years ago, 2019,
2019,
5 years ago.
November 2019.
Yeah, so
Was it been
Yeah.
longer?
So it's been quite a while, right? And the cost of materials changed, the cost of labor's changed. We're definitely in a different atmosphere, right? So
What's the shortfall?
the
Yeah.
Fund is
and-
662,958. It's on the screen.
okay,
So how can we make a motion on it if it's not?
Okay. Got a calculator? you
Yep.
got there?
Yep, I got it right.
Okay. So we're gonna be short.
Yep.
Where'd it go?
That's your difference.
$188,220.42
Yep.
is the difference.
And we do know that. Think of them.
So this is all going for the road work out there, correct?
Nice
Still have to take
job.
almost
too.
$900 from that to pay this invoice for Success Engineering. Is that still a road bond invoice? The
Okay.
900 from. will
So-
come out
So
of the
that's another
bond.
900
yeah,
added to this?
Well, I'll take almost 900 away from the bond fund to pay the engineer. Does that make sense?
Just add another
Add another
1,000.
900 to
Yeah.
the
So,
188.
Yeah,
So basically, we, in my opinion, an NTE of 190,000 out of the ARPA to pay the remaining balance of the Texas Materials invoice.
So Texas Materials is what was used by the engineer to complete the work.
Correct.
So we have two invoices, but you're only talking about this one that doesn't have the shortage.
We have one,
oh,
or you?
Okay.
Oh, you're talking
We have
about,
an invoice
I got you.
for $852,165.
165.
That's actually the road work.
Right,
And we have a separate invoice for $900 for the engineering work.
right.
Okay,
But you're talking about a shortage and we're supposed to make a motion on the shortage?
let me show you how this works, man.
And
Well, I thought it was
Well-
supposed to be on the agenda.
it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is,
Oh, up down here, okay,
okay.
okay,
10B.
can be, okay.
I move we approve the payment of Texas Materials invoice for $852,165,000.
Okay,
And that's paid by the bond.
Paid,
Oh, I'm sorry.
moving $188,220.42 from ARPA funds to the bond payment funds.
You need to move a little bit more.
Ma'am,
900
separate
bucks.
item would be that,
What's it separate?
the $900 is separate,
You approved it already in the consent agenda.
okay? Then we'll have to readdress that.
But if we've already approved.
I would say that we make a difference.
Sir, let's, if we need to address that, let's address it separately. We have an agenda item for Texas Materials, let's deal with that. If we have a separate agenda item, let's deal with it
We
separately.
don't have a separate agenda.
True. We did not address it during the consent agenda where it should have been addressed. So we'll need to readdress that. But let's not mix them. Let's take care of this,
Then I can't pay the bill until.
ma'am.
But they
Let's take
approved the
care of it before
agenda.
we leave here tonight.
So my question would be this. Yes, we did approve the $895.80 on the consent agenda.
Sir,
We did.
Just-
My question is- Simple question. Was that being paid out of the bond fund?
it would be, yes.
Okay, so with that, what we did not take into consideration on what we're working on right here is that we are going to be $895.80 short by approving $188,220.42 from the ARPA fund. I suggest that we approve an amount not to exceed $190,000 to pay this, because we are going to approve the $852,165 to pay this company, Texas Materials. Our bond is only 600 and
663.
so we pay what we need to, not to exceed $190,000 from ARPA funds. And that will cover everything. That's my suggestion.
I think but on the agenda for 10B, it's a not to exceed, and there's a very specific amount of $852,965, so.
But we're not going to exceed it,
So we won't exceed that.
right? Because we're gonna pay the
But
invoice,
then Denise said,
because we're gonna move 188
No.
to, or 190 to cover the 852,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
You understand what we're?
yeah, but
So we address agenda items one at a time. We don't mix all our pocket change. I'm just saying. This is the agenda item, that's what we can address. If we need to address another item, we can move to reconsider that item.
It was just there's less money on the bond than what we planned on. Because we approved the other item already. And
Here's your balance of the bond fund right now.
that's after the other agenda item.
Now do the count. If I just paid for it.
One eighty-nine. 189, 116, 22. Run us through it again, Alderman Fillinger.
I prefer not to, sir.
Okay, so we got to do something. Okay, so then
I think you still, your motion's still before that anybody's second.
I don't think anybody seconded.
So what was the motion?
Without a second, then it dies.
Right.
Well, what was the
Okay.
motion?
What was the motion?
Have to approve the payment of $852,165 for the invoice to Texas Materials and moving $188,220.42 from ARPA funds to the bond payment. That's what I have as the motion.
I'll second that, and
It's not enough.
it's not enough.
Right, because we were using a different number that wasn't up there. And then,
You have a motion and a second, you're gonna take a vote on it.
okay,
Well, if it's not enough, then
all right, well, we have a motion and a second. I mean, all those in favor,
I'm in favor.
we have one in
Because
favor.
I oppose blending agenda items.
I don't know what to do.
Well, I mean, I concur because we've already explained it in the consent agenda, right?
well, then
But right now, it's not- that's not-
I'm in favor then too. For if it's gonna cover the bill, then we can do it that way.
It doesn't. $188,220.42 will not cover the bill. We need the $189, $189,116.22 to cover the bill
$150,000,
So I vote no
$185
on the current
is
motion.
what the invoice amount is. And what was the total?
Yeah, we're gonna need to restate it because the balance that we showed a few minutes ago does not match what we're showing now, correct?
What,
No.
that balance
Right.
is,
Invoice that was approved.
that was with the 900
Oh, I see what
bucks,
you-
right?
Right.
So this actually covers this amount, 852,000 one
No,
hundred.
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't, and
No.
what does it cover? This invoice is for $852,165. Will
So
that pay
subtract-
this bill? It will pay this bill.
No, that 180, no.
The bond
That-
fund will not cover that bill. The bond fund is at 663,000.
I know, but with the addition that we take from ARPA,
Well,
With this motion, you're short $859 and $895.80.
okay, so
we approved paying an invoice earlier. And the original number we were dealing with did not take that into consideration.
I see. So then this,
So we
that
need-
motion would not cover this bill, is what we're saying.
That's correct.
So then I don't vote for it. Because to approve it,
So far, we have two no's, one yes.
I got 2 no's and 2 yeses.
I'm a no.
You're a no?
there's 3 no's, so that
No.
this didn't pass.
All right, so then that didn't pass.
Other people.
It's confusing at best.
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's bring it back to the table. And let's readdress it.
To make a motion, to pay Texas Materials $852,165 using our bond and taking $189,220 $38,116.22 from ARPA funds to cover what the bond does not cover. That's the motion I'm making.
And that will cover this.
Yes, sir.
There.
So are all my numbers correct?
From what I calculated, yeah.
And you're seconding
And he
it,
would
Charles?
second, yeah. Okay. So I have a motion from Alderman Coffindaffer and a second from Alderman Fillinger to approve the invoice for $852,165 and to make up the shortcomings of $189,116.22 from ARPA. That sound correct?
Correct.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right, so moving on to the next line item. Discuss under possible action on the appointment, reappointment of commissioners to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So as we discussed previously, we had basically everybody's has expired terms. And we need to consider maybe appointing some new commissioners or new members to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I did have one. I have two, but I've yet to hear back to see if they're still interested. But I do have one recommendation who's actually in attendance today. She's interested in the position. She sees the shortcomings. She also understands that it's been a struggle, right? It's not because people don't want to do it or they are not competent, but because, we just don't have enough opportunity and time, and the meetings are not regular, and it tends to get pushed to the side. Do we have a list of, Catherine, do we have a list of who's all on the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Sure, I do somewhere, I'm not sure.
I know the names, I just don't know the places, what place they
Sure.
serve.
I
To
believe
appoint someone to a particular place.
Okay,
is Melissa, isn't she the,
she's the,
She's
the
the chair,
chair.
so she PC one, she placed one.
No, I think hers is like PC. I think she's like. more-
she's the chair.
Joe Portman is placed two currently. Doug Thomasini is place 4. And I don't know who place 3 and place 5 are.
I think, I know one of them is,
Mr. Ellis?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
James
know what
Ellis.
place he is,
Thomasini?
He's place 4. Um,
And isn't Ellis on there?
Ellis
Mhm.
is on there either 3 or 5, and then Bradshaw, I think. Bradshaw though resigned.
So that's
And-
three.
Ken Bradshaw.
Did he resign? Here,
I think
he's
he's
on
on
it, resign, right?
So we had, and Joe Portman resigned too, right? I think, or no?
I don't remember him resigning, maybe.
So we had two was, Mr. Portman. One was Mr. Ellis. 3 was Mr. Bradshaw. 4 is Thomasini. Melissa is what's left.
5, Melissa.
Yeah, she must be 5.
Somebody gonna have,
5,
okay.
1, 2, 3.
now it's my understanding, the only people attending any type of regular meetings would be Melissa. and
Melissa
Tom.
and Doug Thomasini.
And Tom.
Those are the only two I understand.
That's how I understand it as well.
So that means we got 3 openings we need to have filled. But this is about keeping the 2 that we already have, am I correct? Because their terms have already expired, so don't we have to approve them again?
Reappointed. yes.
Yeah, we would have to reappoint them. So I'm not opposed to reappointing Melissa and Doug Thomasini. Then I have my recommendation of Monica Madero for any of the other positions that are currently open. This still puts us at a shortage, but that's not to say we can't hear back from more people in time. or if you have other recommendations, right, we can.
Unfortunately, I don't have other recommendations.
Yeah.
And they are staggered terms, so for example, 1, 3, and 5 could be appointed for the remaining 1-year term, and 2 and 4, a 2-year term, or vice versa.
Well, this is 23, so. Oh, goodness.
Well, let's start off with what we can do, right? Does somebody want to make a motion to reappoint P and Z Chair, position number 5, Melissa, and number 4, Doug Tomasini?
I'll make that motion that we reappoint Melissa and Doug Thomasini.
For a term of,
Well, yeah, or you can appoint them to different places to to have consistent term.
Mhm.
So that way they
So
fall into the same
them-
timeline.
Yes, yeah. Instead of 4 and 5, Doug is currently 4, Melissa's 5, he can be 1
Can
and
we
1 and 5.
reverse
5.
them?
Well, what's the time frame for four?
One and
4?
three or 1 and 2?
I don't know where they are in their terms.
I would say all their terms are over.
Oh,
1,
yeah,
3,
yeah.
5.
No,
would be
but
5
what she's
years.
saying is the time frame, right? Like
Yeah,
1, 3, 5, let's just, as an example, is all a 1-year term, and then 2 and 4 are 2-year terms. So,
Because some would have expired, for example, this past May, I think, and then some would have expired May 2022.
So we changed their numbers so that at least we can cover them for the next 2 years. Mhm. So that would be 1 and 3. Or 2
It
and
could
4.
be 1, 3, and 5, or 2, whatever.
Yeah.
I'd say 1, 3, 5, because we're in an odd year now, so all the odd
Okay.
years right now would be.
So we
2-year
give them
terms.
a new number of 1 and 3.
That's what I said, 1 and 3.
So we would move Melissa to place 1.
Mhm.
And
And Tom to
Doug,
3.
3.
Tom to place 3.
Mhm. And then if we accept Monica in another motion, we can make her 5 for a 2-year term.
Correct.
So we need to vote, we need a second on the first
On
motion.
the first one.
yeah, so the first motion was to reappoint P and Z Chair number 5, Melissa Hadley, and Chair number,
To place what?
right, I was gonna get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. But so to reappoint Melissa Hadley, PZ Chair, from place 5 to place 1, to reappoint Doug Tomasini from place 4 to place 3
For a 2-year term.
for a 2-year term.
Mhm.
And we have a motion from Alderman Rapino and a second from Alderwoman Martinez.
Mhm.
Correct.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay. So we got that out the way. Now we have a recommendation. And I think she still wants to do it
After that.
after that.
So,
Yeah. So again, we have a motion from, or not a motion. I have a recommendation for Monica Madero. Just in speaking with her, she seems very well versed. She has a ton of experience and wants to serve the community that she lives in.
I move we appoint Monica Madero to place 5
5.
on the planning and
Would
zoning.
anybody like to
commission
ask her any questions since she's
Right.
present? Miguel?
For a term of 2 years.
2 years.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and all right, so I have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Coppendeffer to appoint Monica Madero to P and Z position number 5 for a term of 2 years. All those in favor say aye.
I,
All those opposed. All right, that is unanimous.
So
Okay,
that leaves positions 2 and 4.
2 and 4,
open.
1-year terms.
1-year terms this year.
I do,
Can they appoint a chair during this meeting, or does that have to be another? Because they're supposed to appoint a chairman.
I think they appoint
Yeah,
their own
I
chair.
think the
Not according
PZ,
to the ordinance.
no,
Right there, the city council shall appoint a chairman from among the members, the P and Z.
Oh, the PNC, yeah.
We've already done that today.
You do not appoint a chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Who?
Melissa? to remain as chairperson.
Reappointed her as chair.
Yeah.
Reappointed.
Just moved her position
Yeah,
or her number, whatever you call
yeah, she was still in Stevens chair.
it. Okay. All
I
right.
did talk to her last week and she was very interested in keeping this program going.
Yeah, and like I said, I do have another recommendation. They're just, I haven't heard back from them.
Okay.
That is, can I say that right now? Who my recommendation is? For the other position?
If you, yeah, you can say it's,
Okay,
I think the agenda covers any
okay,
potential appointment. or-
yeah,
I
yeah,
had
it's
applied way
certain,
back when.
it's certainly potential.
I never got an
um,
answer.
But that's Elena Huerta, who used to be the owner of the shops at Sandy Oaks. I think she has some business acumen. I think she's wanting to support her community.
Who's that? I'm sorry, Melissa.
Elena,
Oh, Ellen.
Elena, yeah.
Does she still own the shop? She owns property in San Diego.
Yeah, she owns the property next door to Dollar General. So, that would be my second recommendation. Again, I still need to follow up. However, in the time that I did speak to her, she did say she was interested and would take the position. I just haven't heard back.
Then I would suggest that we hold off on appointing her until after.
Sure, yeah, no, definitely, definitely.
So with that, today we would leave positions 2 and 4 open. And I would suggest that we have this moved over, covering 2 and 4 on our
On the next meeting.
next regular scheduled meeting.
And that does give everybody else an opportunity
That's
to
correct.
see who else wants to fill that role. Because I don't want anyone to think that I'm
We wouldn't think. that.
quarterbacking.
We would.
the-
We know.
We wouldn't think that.
We'll make that accusation after you're out of office, so it's
Yeah.
more fun to spread rumors of gossip.
There you go.
Somebody had to address that issue.
All right,
Okay.
so then we will move on to the next item. All right, discuss under possible action on a work order from the city engineer related to recommendations on the city's plat application and approval process in compliance with House Bill 3699. Where is that? Is that the approval plat process?
He never did get it.
Okay, so then let's,
Yeah, it's not on there.
yeah, we'll just pull that.
We're gonna postpone.
Actually, he did send me something, but I mean, it was very Floresville. And so we'd have to like,
There wasn't a work process.
no, it wasn't a walk forward letter. He just sent me the his draft of the ordinance or, yeah, we're gonna postpone D. Yep,
Until our next meeting.
yes, sir. Okay, moving on to agenda item E, discuss enter possible action on invoice number 230615 from Nomad Network LLC for annual webmaster services not to exceed $480. So as you should be aware, CJ Walker is our webmaster. She's been vital, I think, to maintain some of our website, to pick up some of the links that are broken when, Catherine's in court or things like that. And she runs her checks on a daily or however often, to make sure that there's not any broken links. She did ask if, we would still need her services, and I asked her to present an invoice. This is what you have in front of you. It's $40 a month. She's good.
Less than $10 a week.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
she's
and
very
the website.
responsive. So I mean, I think it's a valuable service that she provides.
agree.
Um,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we pay this bill.
I said,
I said, second, I bet you can go ahead, Grace. Go ahead.
thank you.
all right, so I got a motion from Alderman Coffendapper and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Alvarado to accept the invoice as presented for $480 for Nomad Network LLC.
Let's approve it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed.
Before we move on to the next item, I do have a question concerning the car show and city parks. I do have to ask it. Yes, it is. The car show was brought up when Tom, on Mr. Rubin. So my question is very simply this, because I did start a Facebook.
Oh, it doesn't
Thank
matter.
everybody
I'm not standing because
To be,
Yeah.
We need to close the meeting.
Well, yeah,
I will
but-
not be
we'll talk
present.
it next time.
Let's talk about it next time.
Oh, I'm.
All right, let's-
I'm gonna ask you.
Well, let's make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Alderman Rapino at 7:42 PM.
Second.
Approved.
This way.
All right, that's a